Here on the air with the Unified Grand Prix. Welcome back, everybody. We are about to jump into game number 2, and that means we're going to see the second bout between our friends here at No Org and Zoos Gaming. Now, the first game around, yes, No Org was looking pretty strong in the early game. Got a little bit shaky. Just a little bit shaky there around the mid-game. And then they managed to close it back out late. LS, what kind of changes, what kind of adaptations are you expecting from these two squads here in the second part?
I'm curious if No Org is actually going to take a less volatile team composition this time around, although maybe they don't see the lanes as being problematic for them. But Zoos, I mean, they were doing really good in mid lane and bot lane, right? But they had a really unfortunate jungle start. I think if the jungle start wasn't the way that it was, the entire face of the game could have been totally warped. So I think that going into game 2 here, draft is also going to be extremely important because Zoos won a lane, or they won 2 lanes that they actually weren't supposed to manage to win. You had the Scion winning against Chase up in top lane outright, and then you had the Silas solo killing a Twisted Fate, and obviously that's pretty good news for them.
Yeah, being able to pull those wins out of thin air almost can sort of, but we got to be careful, right? We got to be careful. We can't fall into the results-based analysis of, hey, it worked out even if the lanes weren't drafted in a way that allowed them to win. So I do want to make sure that we're looking at the draft objectively, making sure we can get as much value out of these as possible. Because looking into this second game, one of my big things I said at the end of game number 1 is Zoos Gaming, I want to see y'all have a point to play from that's not a 5,000 gold deficit come 20 minutes into the game, right? I want to see them escape the laning phase with a bit better ground to fight on.
I think that would definitely be good things as, okay, draft is going to be started here for game number 2. Ban phase underway. No Org still going to be on the blue side. They're going to have first pick available to them. So let's see if there's going to be any mix-ups here inside of the draft phase as, no, everything's going to start as per usual with the Thresh ban. And
okay, Thresh ban, yeah. We're just sort of running it back here a little bit. Thresh and Seraphine were both the first bans last time around. They will stay the same here in this second bout. Let's see if we continue seeing similar focus to one of the previous one. Yep, there it is. Azir also banned out. Now, last time, I believe Zoos Gaming continued to focus more on the supports. Yep, there's your Tom Kench banned away, so no fasting Senna this time around. Are we just getting the salty run back, my friend?
We might indeed be getting a bit of a salty run back. They might attribute the loss to something else, and honestly, No Org was in a winning position at several states, so that might legitimately just be their mindset. But Zoos, let's see if they're actually going to handshake the identical jungle matchup, or if there's going to be some sort of deviation here, as there's the Victor banned away by No Org, and Orianna yet again. So, okay, we got a mirror ban phase.
It's same stuff. It's same stuff. Let's see if we get the mirror picks as well. Does Zoos Gaming want to just run it back, say it wasn't the picks, it was the execution, it was a problem here with the level 1? Well, hey, No Org is saying you left the Kai'Sa open. We are going to snatch that one up yet again. Callista picked up in response. Rel, just lock it in. Don't even wait on it. Just lock it in there. Oh, they're mirroring. That's what they did last time exactly. They hovered Rel, switched to hover Kha'Zix, back to lock in Rel. They're mirroring the hovers. That's insane.
Wait. This is truly something. As now No Org handed the option to sort of mix up this draft, and no, they're not going to do it. They lock in the Alistar. Let's see if we maybe get deviation here on B3. Or
okay.
If, I'm not totally sure about this.
It was TF last time. It was TF last time. Okay, so we get the Lilia. So although this is not complete deviation, because Lilia was still in the comp, it's order deviation.
Yes.
So it's something. It's more than we've got so far.
Yeah, a little bit. And I would like to see Udyr here, rather than opting into the Olaf. Udyr, obviously a lot more reliable than Olaf in the current... Okay, well, I mean... All right, we got that locked in. So we got that one going.
They heard you, bro.
Udyr... Are we on delay? I'm not totally sure, but as Udyr is locked in for sure, and this is going to offer a lot more control, and Udyr is a lot more valuable than Olaf in the event that he falls behind. He's still got a point and click stun. So all he has to do is run up to you, and he's still able to provide value.
Just run up and slap the guy. We'll see how good he can do at that here this time around. We'll still have to deal with that Lilia. Yone banned away here from Zoos Gaming. What will the choice be from our friends at No Org. 1 second left. Blocking it. All right, the Wukong. So once again, respecting Alorum, making sure that he's not able to play that iconic pick up there in the top side.
Well, let's see what the rest of the bans are actually going to be here. As well, we got 10 seconds remaining now. And at this point, mid laners, they're so wide open, as are top laners. It makes it really hard to ban here. Physical damage champions are more likely to be banned because Lilia, I mean, if she gets paired with multiple mages, then obviously it does not feel good at all. As Lucian's going to be banned away. And that makes me think that Zoos Gaming might try to opt into an R4 Twisted Fate of their own here in mid lane. All right. But then Tristana, still available. Firefire could maybe lock that one in, and so that strikes me as a little bit peculiar. Another champion that they could be looking to go for on R4 here for mid lane dominance would actually be the Syndra. Both Yone and Lucian are two champions in particular that you would see against the Syndra, but LeBlanc's being hovered. She's not really well suited in a meta where Verdant Barrier exists, unless you're Perks versus Demonte.
That item is pretty darn strong, turns out, against a champion like this. You just build that and you don't die. Feels bad for the LeBlanc player. Maybe they're going to switch it up. Maybe they'll just sit here on the hover for a while. Zoe locked in instead here for Dark Winds.
Now we're going to see what Noorg is going to respond with here. Tristana obviously is still an option if you want to have Lilia be that sole mage in the mid lane. But I'm curious to see what Firefire is actually going to want to opt into. He still could just go for the Twisted Fate, and he will. Yeah. As now the hover comes out for it. You can obviously just continue to take the spellbook and whatnot, depending on if you want teleport or cleanse against the Zoe. Still valuable there. And now the final pick, it's going to be a top laner coming in blind. And it wouldn't be a cast with me if this wasn't here.
I didn't even have to set it up. I was going to say, LS,
tell me how you feel about this one.
Because I know your opinions on round 5 Renekton.
Oh, well, I am super curious how Lorum is going to respond to this one. As we've seen a lot of sins up in top lane historically in the LCS, LEC, everywhere. Urgot, though, is not a sinful one. That is a very interesting pick that's going to come out. It's really good because of the short range. So Zoos lock in the Urgot, a lot of short range on the side of Noorg, a lot of hard engage on their team composition. Urgot loves all of that, and they have the Zoe there for the bubbles, the late game insurance, and both of these drafts are a lot more well-rounded, but Zoos, I think, coming out a bit ahead than they were in game 1.
That's what I was going to ask, is who won this draft? And is it a severe win? Is it like a 55-45? What are your honest feelings on this one? Because No Org is 4 out of 5 running it back. The only thing different is that they now have the Renekton instead of the Jace.
I mean, I feel like because of the Udyr edition, because of the Urgot versus the Renekton is a lot less volatile than the Jace versus Sion, and because Urgot has forgiveness, right? He can just get the Fear Beyond Death in the mid game. Even if he's behind, the Fear is going to be so valuable. Twisted Fate is needing to have a lot more control here in this game against the Zoe. He needs to convert into things meaningful, and he actually has less tools to do so this time around. The jungle dynamic is more favorable for Zeus, and then the top lane dynamic is also more favorable for Zeus than it was in game number 1. So this is very interesting. Zeus should be way better equipped to fight back in this game number 2.
All right, we're loading into the game now. You can see with the champion cards on your screen, we do not have any issues with a pause. We do not have any issues with a remake. Instead, we are about to jump here into this second game, the Renekton versus the Urgot here on the top side. So let's talk a little bit more about Urgot, because I know that a lot of people that watch LCS in particular, like Urgot's not being played a lot right now, or at all right now. He's not popular. So talk to me a little bit about the champion. Explain why you're so happy to see this pick, particularly in this environment and in this matchup.
I think Urgot's really underappreciated right now as a champion in general, and we know that regions overall can be really slow to pick up certain champions and introduce them into the meta. Right now, there is a lot of focus on mid-rangey team compositions, teams that like to brawl, they like to fight and whatnot. Urgot, even if he only has one mythic item, his R is so powerful versus the current field of meta champions. Fear Beyond Death is nothing to really scoff at, and there's a lot of champions that have that immediate all-in pick engage that can get him that R active even if he can't get the threshold himself. He's able to go up against a lot of top lane champions really well right now. He did get the Kraken Slayer nerf to his W, but he ended up getting the line to compromise for that. He still has Shrine Breaker as an item, and that's obviously one that's very good for him. And then he has Shield Bow if the enemy has a lot of all-in engage. And so he has options inside of itemization and laning phase that just makes him a pretty well-rounded pick.
All right, well that makes me more excited to see what he can bring to the table here in this game up against this just definition of meta top laner that Renekton is and pretty much has always been. Now loading in here, we will see Raheen running the cleanse on the Kalista this time. Last time at the beginning of the game, you pointed out how aggressively they were playing for the Zoos bottom lane with Exhaust on the Kalista, with Ignite on the Rel. Of course, the Ignite still stays, but when you're up against Twisted Fate with the point-and-click CC, Renekton with the point-and-click CC, so many options for bad times heading towards your AD carry. Raheen's respecting that and going with cleanse this time.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you have the Lily asleep, and so maybe Raheen is just thinking that last game, he ended up getting caught by a lot of the CC, and maybe he felt like he was just being suffocated with his ability to play and what options he had available. So he's going to forego some of the lane power, and I'm curious what that means, because remember, last time, they got really far ahead. They also managed to find a kill in the 2v2. Despite having a really, really rough opening. And good news bears for Zoos, and no pun intended, obviously, there for what's going on, but the okay. Red Star is going to go completely fine this time around for them.
Not a problem. Really Big Meme does not have to worry about that janky start in the jungle. He's not having that horribly cursed beginning that he did in game number 1. Everything's cool here. Down in the bottom side, you can see Raheen and Rhino probably having a little bit of priority right now as they will be shoving those things up. But Katie and Rain find some minions, but now the engage from Rhino is big. Eats a lot of those spears. The Ren pulls him back out, and the boys down to half.
And that is a pretty good trade out the gate for Zeus, as we see Darkwings just trying to juggle and manage the laning phase here against the Twisted Fate, who has a lot more pressure on him to perform. And also, unlike Silas, Zoe can bite back a lot earlier on, and she has options available to her, where Twisted Fate in the Silas matchup, he has a lot more autonomy and control over everything that's going to end up happening. Right now, the bot lane, it pushes 2, and it looks like it wants to go and mess with Lilia. And they are going to do that. So Anda, he's getting really interrupted. This is massive for Zeus, because now Udyr is going to be able to triple buff the Lilia and steal away her camps. This is a pretty big deal, because what can end up happening is Udyr can hit Udyr can hit level 6 when Lilia is 4.9.
Oh, now that is some scary stuff. The Udyr running around with all that extra power up against Anda's Lilia here. You can see him finally hitting level 3, but as he rotates into the top part of his jungle, he can see that the camps have already been removed. The blue is gone, the Gromp is gone. RBM already has the chickens ready to farm up here in his own topside jungle because he spent all his time farming the enemy camps instead. Nice early game here for this guy. Does he actually want to head back into the topside river to try to contest for this crab? We'll see. I mean, Anda has prio for now. Doesn't look like Really Big Meme wants to go for this. He knows that his top laner's still not close enough here yet and doesn't want to take a bad fight.
Yeah, Alorum ended up going for a cheater recall. He just managed to have enough gold to actually afford the call. He did miss 4 of the CS, but not going to be bad by any means. And you can see, I mean, we got a little bit of a trade down here in bottom, but I don't think any action's going to happen. Cheater recall sets up Alorum really nicely. His wave is in a really good state, and you can just see that Anda, he's left without anything to really do, and this is why these type of early game lane manipulation tactics can be really powerful against early lane bullies, because it pulls the rug out from under them. It removes options that they would otherwise have, and it puts their jungler in a really damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, where if they path towards them, they don't have any option.
Yeah, Anda's just sort of sitting around in a brush right now, just waiting for the chicken camp to respawn, while you can see that Really Big Meme just had things to go back and forth from over and over, continuing to farm up. 28 versus 22 in the CS department. Back up here in the top side, it's Alorum stuck underneath the turret here as Viper has the opportunity to shove that wave in and get on back. But yeah, we'll see how well Anda's able to stay caught up here as we move forward in this game. Things favoring Really Big Meme right now, but neither one of the junglers has really affected the map state overall besides themselves just yet in terms of going into the lanes and getting some ganks off. Everybody's still nothing but zeros here in the score lines, almost 5 minutes into the game. And the gold, my friend, is dead even. No real large advantages being won in any of the lanes here just yet.
No, and I mean, right now, this is all good news for Zoos, who, again, the responsibility isn't on them to get ahead. We take a look at some of the itemization. You have Merc Treads picked up by RBM. He knows the power and the effectiveness that's going to offer against the Twisted Fate and the Lilia, and even some of the tenacity is going to come into play as well against the Renekton. The thing I'm curious about is, will Zoe this time around pick up a Verdant Barrier here, knowing that she is against Lilia and Twisted Fate, and how effective a Banshee's Veil could be later on in the game? But if you're Zeus right now, just because the gold score is even doesn't mean that you're not actually ahead in the game, because they certainly are, when you consider that if this keeps going 0-0 across the board for another 10 minutes, they're going to be the ones favored in team fights.
Top side, Viper going in after Alorum here. He's going to try to survive as Onda's forced to flash away, and now that the backup has arrived, no Org is in no good spot, my friends. Viper tries to continue the escape, but RBM is running like a bat out of hell, and the damage comes through with the first blood over to Alorum.
And that is a really key first blood as well, because it sets the Renekton beyond fair, beyond death.
Beautifully done. Flash, bear, slap right into the grinder.
And he's just going to reset right now. He has a teleport wave coming into him. Renekton is just out of this game. Let's take a look at what ended up transpiring here. So they try to come in onto Urgot, but Urgot is misleadingly tanky and very obnoxious. RBM was able to be here for this as well. Point and click stun onto Viper. Interestingly enough, it was the Q. I thought it was the corruption potion that actually killed him, but lost sight, by the way.
Looks like that's a lot of damage for the corrupt there.
Yeah, that would have been really scary. Harpoon ends up hitting, and just overall, really clean double kill. Renekton not going to be able to recover in this lane anymore.
Syncing up the flash from the Udyr stun to guarantee the kill on the Urgot ulti. You love to see it. Alorum getting paid here in the top lane. 2-0 compared to his opponent. Yes, they both got shoes, but Urgot is feeling fantastic about his current state in this game. And man, really big meme. Hats off to him. So much better of a start here in this game than in the previous one. The Udyr is having a great time here in the jungle in this game. His opponent already went for the second tier boost to just try to continue to have a decent enough speed versus him. Are they going for a dive here yet again? Yes, they are. Last time they brought 2. This time it's 3. Watch out. 8. See ya later. Shutdown for Onda.
And that is super important that they managed to get that. They need to try to salvage and diminish the disadvantage that is present up there in the top lane. And Zoe, because of the wave state, not able to actually crash the wave in time. And so Twisted Fate, he's able to Destiny Gate top lane and get back to the wave to pick up the remaining minions. And so really good overall on the side of Norwich. Darkwing does get the turret play. It does come at the cost, though, of that top lane play. Zeus ends up getting the Mountain Dragon. And for them to be getting early dragons, it is bad news bears. For no org, this is going to be pretty problematic for them in the later stages of the game, because the responsibility, the onus, it's on them. They need to get ahead. They have to accelerate.
Well, now that acceleration here, 12.5 versus 13.2 thousand. So no org does find themselves slightly behind. That Drake going over doesn't feel great. Wards in the Rift Herald pit as well from the side of Zoos Gaming, and they're bringing the bottom lane top. You can see the On My Way pings coming out towards that Herald pit. They know that that's the objective on the map to be playing for right about now. Yes, their opponents have the Scuttle Crab in the river, but that's not really anything they can do much about. It will fade now too. Now that they've only got that one ward there in the pit, that'll be cleared out by Really Big Meme. And Shelly is on the menu if these guys want to go after it. They do have their bottom lane up here more quickly. As you can see, they're already rotating over as Value is still back in the enemy base. So this should be Herald here for Zeus.
Yeah, and Zeus, they are starting it up, but obviously no org showing that they have a desire to contest this. Alorum does not have teleport. Big gonna get locked up by Michaela.
Roll, baby, look at that. Big is already down. Raheen grabbing the kill on that one. The Alistar was only level 5 and Rel is level 6. You can't be going in like that. Oh, they not just get the Herald itself, they take the free kill on top. It's an objective with a side order of Big South, baby, and Zoos Gaming loves how that one went around.
And that was just a very good turn of events. We're going to take a look at a replay from a little bit ago. Obviously, Zoe with the bubble onto the Alistar. The bone plating ends up dissipating Big, not having level 6. And now they know what they're intending. They're able to deduce that, okay, we know that this is coming. And then Rhino on the rally just runs right over to the left-hand side. He locks them up and then Pokeballed right back in to the Rift Herald. And they end up killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Urgot down in bot lane while all of this is happening. He's getting solo EXP, solo minion gold, and he gets the wave crashed onto the turret. Zoos are just light years ahead. It's only a almost 1,500 gold lead right now for them with the mountain, but it's so much more impactful when you factor in the team compositions.
And there's some items coming online for Really Big Meme as well, picking up the parts to the Turbo Chem Tank, and once that thing is online, everybody on No Org has got to be so respectful. The mistake from Big in that fight around the Herald, going in there, trying to be the front line, feels like they should have just surrendered that objective entirely, as now Onda comes back towards the mid lane, looking to make some sort of a play. Cleanse from Zoe, keeping her nice and safe there, breaking away from the CC of the gold card.
Manages to get out there using that cleanse via the spellbook, teleport up and available again for Zoe. So you have to wonder how close she is right now to her mythic item. We got 2 minutes until that Infernal Dragon's going to come up. And when you're looking across the board at all the itemization, how could you ever consider No Org to be able to realistically contest that one? They're behind in literally all areas. Well, hold on, Alorum. Oh, we missed.
Trying to get away. Alorum's now in a bad spot. He gets collapsed on. The cavalry has arrived, and he will be trampled into the river. Tries to make the play, but man, he's just a little bit too hypey on himself there.
Yeah, doesn't manage to land the harpoon onto Value, who just manages to barely get away, and it also comes at the expense of a summoner spell. So, very peculiar, as the Rift Trial is going to crash in. It's going to give a little bit of gold over 5 fire, able to land the gold card, but it doesn't matter. And what this means now is that Urgot, I mean, he's really throwing away his advantages. He was in such a good and powerful position. On the flip side, though, Raheen and Rhino down in bottom, getting a lot of value by getting all the turret plates, getting so much minion gold, so much EXP, and they're even threatening to actually just get the first turret of the game here.
First turret with only half a plate left, man. See you later. Couple more auto attacks will get it done. 2 minutes to spare even on the timer before the plating would fall. And Zoos Gaming picking that one up, so they are feeling great about how things are looking right now. Even after Alorum made the mistake in the top side, which we can take another look at here, the gold lead still stays at 1.5k. Value, he wants to back, it's feeling all right, but here comes the creepy crab.
And we just see what ends up happening. He lands the Q, he goes for the combo, but then he whiffs on the Fear Beyond Death. I don't know how that's possible from that distance, but it did happen.
Did it not hit him?
Did it?
I thought it had the little yellow crosshair reticule thing. I thought it hit him. It just looked like it did almost no damage.
All right.
I think it looked like it hit him. I think it
thought
hit him.
It whiffed. Lost
I was
sight.
2 inches away.
I'm blind in my right eye. It's all right. I have an excuse.
Okay. It's all good. It's all good. Because as I was watching the replay, I was like, wait a second. There's no way you can miss from 2 inches away, right? It's not possible.
Oh, man. Well, the Infernal Dragon's going to be up now, and we're going to have some posturing here. And let's see what transpires. No Org can't take poke damage like this.
No, sir. Big already down to half HP here on the Alistar. Don't want to be looking like that as the fight is about to break out here. Lilia trying to throw back and forth here. I love how we've got the sleep wars between these two teams, as it's Bubbles versus Swirl Seeds for who can land a better bit of poke to try to start off the fight in a good way. But so far, it's nobody getting a lot done just yet. Big is regenerating his health back up to about 3/4 at this point in time. Really Big Meme will pass off the blue buff to his mid laner to make sure Zoe can get that poke. Back here in the mid lane, what in the world is going on? No Org trying to make a play on Alorum. He's half HP, he's staying alive, he's doing all right. Big had to use the ulti there to try to tank that turret. Meanwhile, Viper is the one man left up here on the other end of the map. He's saying, I don't care about the dragon. He is grabbing some plate money, and that means Drake number 2 goes over to Zoos.
Yeah, Zoos ends up getting Drake number 2. Callista actually gains 10 AD from it as it's captured. So that's a longsword on Callista. Urgot probably getting very similar value. Udyr as well. And so while Viper may have got himself the turret plate, may have got himself a lot of solo EXP, definitely the win is in Zoo's favor, and we have a very impactful dragon coming up. It's Ocean, and that's very problematic for No Org, which are mostly sustain-based team fighting, or they're going to end up being a pick comp later on, and Ocean is really problematic, whereas Cloud, they could still actually pick someone off. They could kill them, regardless of their movement speed or the ultimates like being there. But the HP from Ocean Soul is really problematic for their comp to handle.
What else is problematic is having your top laner get killed by the Watch Out Eep yet again. A little bit more damage going through, but Alorum running away. Nope, you're not getting out of that one, buddy. No Org picks up another freebie on the enemy top laner, and this game is just about tied up in the gold yet again.
Gold score totally tied up, but you gotta remember to account for those dragons providing a lot of unseen stats and the threat of soul point. So even though the gold score is totally even, remember, Twisted Fate has a passive that is normally supposed to put his team slightly ahead if everything's even. So Zoos are still in the driver's seat right now, and Norg are gonna need to keep making pickoffs onto Alorum and Co. if they want to manage to stay inside of this game. It looks like they're looking for another fight.
Five Fire again, just showing up out of nowhere with these Twisted Fate ultis, backing up his team, making it so they have the advantage here in the fights. Rhino down to half, Big down to half, TP showing up with Rhino going right back in. Big's going to be stunned up, but Rhino's going down. Nice turnaround coming out from No Org here to make sure they're able to win the fight, and with Viper here in the backup, Zoos has to walk away. Well done by No Org.
In Norg, they are finding more and more micro advantages. This is how they won game number 1. It's how they pulled themselves back into it. In Zoos, it's really where they started to fall apart, right? They managed to get into really nice positions. They managed to brawl their way back in, and then Norg just kept capitalizing on mistakes the same way that they're doing this time around again. As Zoos was the one that re-handshaked the engage here and tried to go back in. In the teleport, it came out, the Urgot got knocked up. Really well played by Big.
Big just making sure that Rhino does not want to make those sorts of decisions anymore, man. This dude thought he was going to go right back in, punish Alistar as the ultimate fell, but he underestimated just how strong the Acathian Rain and the Plasma Stack and everything from value on this Kaisa is. Value always trustable to do the damage here in the fights when he needs to get it done. Down here in the bottom side, let's take a look at how these top laners are looking as these guys continue to try to play the split push game. You can see that Viper is up about 20 CS compared to his counterpart. He's got his mythic already completed, whereas Alorum a little bit behind and just now getting that stride breaker put together.
Yeah, he puts the stride breaker together. He's 1 CS off call, so definitely
feels bad.
Definitely, yeah, not a feels bad man moment. And Alorum, who was so far ahead, remember, he started off with a double kill at level 5. Yeah. He ended up getting 6 during it. You know, for perspective on how early that was, is hold on, we got some more action.
Big going in, Rhino taken low. Really big meme trying to run some interference here as more bodies from No Org show up to help these guys out. They wanted to go in, they wanted to find some of the damage onto Raheen. It didn't work out too great just yet. Viper's still hanging around here in the flank. Nice stun down into 5 Fire, going into the stasis to stay alive. Big again doing everything he can to help his boys. Alorum is killed, and Big is freed from the blender. Viper continues leading the charge underneath the tier 1, but with the enemy teleport showing up, holy cow, man, it's saving Private Big. They saw the chains end up around him, and they said, not today. They take him down, and they save their support.
The jaws of life were definitely enacted right there to pull them out of Alorum's grasp, as I am not sure what it was that was going on right there. We take a look at the replay, and the Everfrost going in, a big knock-up, and then the Urgot, Fear Beyond Death, says, come watch CLG, and then Big says, no thanks, I don't want to see that, as he runs away from what's going on right there. He said, I've seen that one in the past. Manages to be freed, and that was really close. It was almost going to be a 1-for-1, but not quite, and the gold score remains neck and neck. What's really going to be impactful here is in 20 seconds, that Ocean Dragon's going to come up. If Zeus gets it, every single dragon from this point forward is going to be basically match point, because it should be inconceivable to lose the game with Ocean Soul.
Okay, Zoe's going in for some potential big damage here. Ends up just being Callista to trigger the extra damage on the sleep. Rhino once again going in, looking for the way to make this fight happen. No Org trying to counterattack now as the Rhino's going to be pulled to safety. Raheen now going to be under threat. Rhino taking the kill onto Big. Raheen still staying alive, trying to put some spears into Deers, but now he's over here. The boy is already down with Alorum grabbing the kill onto Value. You've got Viper here in the front line trying to make the plays. Zoe gets away, but right back into the cards, man. Look at that. It is a 2-for-2. After everything is said and done, it's 3 men alive on either side with the Ocean Drake ready to go here on the bottom half of the river. Rhino's at 100 HP, Alorum and RBM both under half. It's No Org that found better health bars at the end of the fight despite the even trade, and it's No Org that has priority over the Drake.
Yeah, No Org now are going to move over to the Ocean Dragon, and this is giving me eerie vibes from game number 1. It's the same exact things that almost started happening. And Noorg now, they're going to find themselves with the Ocean Dragon. This buys them a lot more time inside of this game, and let's just take a look. Dark Wings goes forward, he lands the bubble onto an Alistar, not able to follow up on it with the Paddle Star. For some reason, Raheen goes really far forward, gets tagged with the gold card. Rhino tries to engage, but there's no possible follow-up here. Urgot's not even here yet, and Zoos overly aggressive the same way they lost game number 1. In very similar fashion, and Noorg clearly just capitalizing on it. They know their limits in the team fights a lot better, the posturing that they're having, and they are finding victory after victory to claw their way back into this one.
Now back at the live game state, you can see damage dealt in the last team fight. Twisted Fate topping the charts at about 2,700. The other two big damage threats in Onda and Value also both over 2K, with the highest damage being done on the enemy team. Dark Wings is at 18, but everybody else is barely over 1,000 or not even hitting that point yet. So really huge performances out of jungle, mid, and AD carry here for Noorg in that last skirmish. The game still remains incredibly close. The soul stack has been shut down, and now we need to see Zoos put themselves in a better spot. What do you want to see out of Zoos in particular, LS, now that they're falling behind a little bit again, now that they had the mistake in the last team fight, now that the soul stack has been disarmed? What is the call for this squad to make sure that this doesn't turn into game 1 again?
So in an interesting turn of events here at 21 minutes, this is actually about the gold lead that you would probably expect Noorg to have inside of the game if everything was going even up until this point. So Zoos aren't necessarily out of this by any means. They have Zoe about to get the Void Staff as the next item. Now, you look at the side of Noorg, you got no magic resist anywhere. So Zoe, with the Sork Pen Boots, with the Ludens, with the Void Staff, and the Mythic passive, Zoe's going to be dealing true damage to pretty much everyone on the side of Noorg, and all they need to do is constantly fish for the bubbles and then look to pop Noorg that way. The Dragon Dances are still going to be reasonable. They're going to be basically as if this game was totally even leading up to this point. They're not out of this by any means.
All right, we need to see Zoe fishing, a little bit more patience on the full-on engage, unless there's bubbles to lead the way. That's what I'm getting out of this. That's what Zoos needs to do if we want to see these guys find success here in this game. 5-Fire with the stun, but it's a stun for stun, 1 for 1. 5-Fire continuing to throw out the cards here, barely breaking away from the shields. Void Seeker finds a mark, Bowling Ball does not. Rhino going into the backside of the pit here, flashing over the wall, able to stay alive, takes the blast cone for a little bit of extra distance. Really Big Meme is still your target. Onda throwing the bowling ball over the wall once again. Nice sidestep coming out from RBM. As soon as he sees the chance and knows that he's not jumping into a whole enemy team, Value goes in with a killer instinct, and Really Big Meme is down. Now Viper will clear away a little bit of extra vision around here. Baron is up, but we're 22 minutes into the game, and there's still 4 enemy champions alive despite that jungler being down. Looks like Noorg's just going to continue trying to look for opportunities here in the enemy jungle. 5-Fire is fear beyond death. What are you doing up there alone, buddy? That's not where you need to be. Biggs going forward, looking for the damage, and CC down onto Raheen as Viper follows up with a little bit of extra stun. Rhino down to 300 HP with Viper still in the chase. Value needs a little bit more damage coming out from a Cathian Rain, and there it is. Onda still looking for the opportunity here on the side of the fight, but they won't need any more. It's 5-Fire for Rhino, the ultimate trade here in the second half of this fight.
And this is still just really good micro wins for Noorg, though, because of the amount of investment that Zoos is making into these plays that they're looking for, and they just keep falling very, very, very slightly behind each time. It's like grains of sand going through an hourglass is pretty much what's happening here. We got Dragon coming up in just a minute right now, and you look at the side of Noorg, they have second core item on pretty much all of those champions. I understand Lilia doesn't outright have the Zhonya's yet, but with the Seeker's Arm Guard fully stacked, with the stopwatch in the inventory, it's almost as though you actually have that item inside of your inventory. Sterix now completed on Viper. This is going to be match point pretty much at this fight. I would imagine if Zeus manages to win it, it would take a really big blunder to throw from that point forward. They are also evenly matched in items across the board. This is what the game's been building up to at this point. If Noorg win this one, this is going to be bad news bears. Noorg should get Baron and the Dragon after that.
It's all coming down to a big old fight the next time they collide. We are 30 seconds away from our 4th Drake of the game. Zoos have been denied this being their soul, but they are still ahead of their opponents 2-1 in that count. Down roughly 2,000 gold right now. They still have that slight disadvantage. But you can see summoner spells. I counted them last time, man. I'm counting them here again. You got 9 up on the side of No Org. The Hex Flash doesn't count. That's cheating. And then over on the other side, you got about, what is that, 7. So summoner spell advantage over here to No Org. TP showing up. Sleep going down. They find that one under Rahina. Now the fight has started off. RBM already killed here at the very start of the fight. That is huge for No Org. Big still looking to rotate around with a double kill now onto the enemy mid laner. With Zoe out of the picture and a double kill back to value. No Org just loves where this game has found itself. Stun onto the Urgot as he flies over the wall here with the blast cone. Welcome to the blast zone, baby. Raheen's running all the way away, but Anda's in hot pursuit. Has to make sure he doesn't overextend. He's got backup coming down. There's no reason for a pointless death. No deaths indeed for No Org as Five Fire continues the chase. Stun into stun. Look at what the Everfrost is setting up here for these guys. Rhino's going to die here at the very last part of the fight now, too. A little bit more damage coming in with the gold card finding its way there. They don't even need any help. They're just going to leave Twisted Fate to do it. Not only does No Org not lose anybody, not only does No Org take the Drake, not only does No Org take the fight, but the deaths are so staggered that Rhino and Raheen are both still dead, and Baron is on the menu.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was just mentioning before this fight. If they're going to win it, they're going to get both of the objectives. It's going to be near impossible for Zeus to try to recover from this one. And I mean, we'll see what ended up transpiring in the replay. If RBM wants to redeem himself here, he needs to find a way into the pit. Onto Smite is about to come up. He needs to just go into the pit, but you can see, No Org, they dropped the aggro on the Baron. They stopped damaging it. Zoe trying to get in there.
Okay, we got Baron down to 200 HP. It ends up being secured by the Kaisa. They take down the Udyr. They focus. They don't want to play no coin flip game. No 50-50s here today. LS, we went from a 2,000 gold difference and an overall relatively even game state to No Org now being up 14-6. They're 6,000 gold ahead, and everybody's wearing purple.
Everyone is absolutely wearing purple, and they might be wearing green in just a bit as they get the win, probably. 7,000 gold lead with 2 Ocean Dragons. Such an item advantage now, and everything falling apart on the side of Zeus. The other thing about Baron that I feel like it's not talked about enough is the EXP that the objective gives as well. If you look at the EXP board, you got 2 levels in support, 1 in AD carry, 1 in mid lane, 1 in jungle, and 1 in top lane. That is a ton of unaccounted for gold as Alorum finds himself caught out again.
Alorum tries to go in, make the fight work out, go for the 1v1, has Five Fire taken very low. Five Fire stuck back in the Fear Beyond Death, and he actually dies this time. Holy moly, he was down to like 50 HP away from another interruption there on the execution. But that is a big kill for Alorum there in the outplay against Five Fire and Anda. Zoo's coming right back in, looking to find even more. Viper with the stasis, buying an extra moment here, but the damage continues pouring in after the fact. Really Big Meme gets himself away over the wall here with a flash. Bowling ball's thrown in. Raheen tagged by that one, pulling Rhino away to safety. Big still looking for the chance to make a play on the back end of this one. No Org continuing to play aggressive, even after losing their mid laner. Will this pay off? Value still going after the blue. Gives that one over to Anda instead. Really Big Meme with the chase down onto Viper here yet again. Down to about 400 HP, but the man's still Udyr. He can still run. He can still slap, but the man hits the ground and Value's going in on a rampage. A double kill on the enemy AD carry. Value is absolutely destroying everybody here with a triple kill. Finally going to be shut down with Alorum making his way back into the fight. The shutdown onto Value coming out from Dark Wings. It looked like the man was on Penta Road walking towards In This Game Boulevard, but they shut him down. Sleep onto Viper now, too, as Alorum goes forward. He gets the Q, needs a little bit more damage. Continues marching forward with a shutdown on the enemy AD carry. Onda's sidestepping away. Now, that ulti missed. I will tell you that one. Onda's still just trying to hop, skip, and jump, but Dark Wings comes forward, needs to go for it a little bit more. No, he gets away from the beach ball. It's still March. We cannot be throwing beach balls around just yet. He survives somehow, but a massive amount of mistakes coming out from No Org, and a big punish from Zoos.
Yeah, absolutely massive punish. And let's just take a look at how this all transpires again. Twisted Fate is already dead while this is happening. And then No Org, they try to go back in. They manage to get a kill onto the Callista and the Udyr, but then immediately Urgot and Zoe, they're able to turn things back around. Renekton and his reindeer. This is not Santa Claus, I'll tell you that much. As the sleep ends up coming out, Viper gets tagged by the slow Urgot, able to get the kill right there. And thank you, Captain Flowers, for that one. It did end up missing.
I got you, bro.
My eyesight probably would have missed it. But
I got you.
Darkwings not able to land the paddle star or the beach ball, and that is going to be a lot of tempo loss right now for No Org, but they are still in the driver's seat. They have a 5,000 gold advantage, exactly. 50 seconds until that Ocean Drake comes up, and now you see the items that they're trying to power towards. Guardian Angel on Viper, Void Staff going to be coming up next. I'm not sure if Value is going to go for Guardian Angel or something on the Kaisa, but on the flip side, Urgot picks up a Death Stance, and I'm not sure why, because there is an enormous amount of magic damage on the enemy team, and I feel like the passive from Death Stance is pretty luxurious in this game.
Well, we've got a little bit of damage onto Viper here from that magic damage on the enemy side. Oh, never mind. We don't even have time to talk about it. Beautiful pick on the enemy AD carry. Raheen caught out of position. 5Fire grabbing the kill. Darkwings running away with Value here in the chase. Really Big Meme and Rhino are separated from their high-value allies. They are separated away from the carries. 5Fire going after the remaining kill here by the Darkwings. Finds him with the wild cards. Really Big Meme is still on the run. Rhino wants to go over the wall. Maybe, yes, he jumps in, but the boy's only jumping into his death. He wants to trade a 1-for-1, but the stopwatches are here. Look at what is going on here in this team fight overall. It's not a team fight, it's a team slaughter. Alorum's the last man left alive. Big's going in. He misses the pulverize, but it does not matter. No Org marching down the mid lane. These death timers are still so long, 30 minutes into the match. Onda's going to be sticking around, taking down the Ocean Drake that remains just to make sure. Mid lane inhibitor should fall here. Raheen is back alive, and No Org is backing away.
Yeah, and Zoos, I mean, once again, they're in a okay position. They had control over the river leading up to it. Let's take a look at it. They have control of the river. Dragon was coming up, I think, in 15, 10 seconds. There's no reason to walk up just for the minion wave, and No Org says, I don't know what you guys are doing. You did this in game number 1, and they punish it yet again. 5Fire able to get onto Zoe with that rapid fire cannon. That's why the Twisted Fate auto looked like it reached so much. I like he ran in, got melee range, so there's no outplay potential for Zoe. No chance for the wild cards to miss. Rhino tries to go in to trade the 1-for-1 at the very least, but doesn't respect, obviously, the stasis via the Zanya's Hourglass, and so he ends up actually wasting a summoner spell, getting tagged himself, and now as we come back into live, it's soul point for No Org, and a 7,000 gold lead, almost 8,000 here, and I mean, I'm not sure what Zoos are supposed to do at this point. The level deficit's really, really, really problematic, as well as the item gaps.
So much damage being done. 5Fire goes on a killing spree, and with that random pick onto Darkwings, finding himself out of position, finding himself in a spot where it's such an easy collapse for No Org. That means Zoos now has to contend with a 4v5 for the next 35 seconds. Zoos players are stuck underneath the tier 2 turret up here in the top side. 5Fire's just standing back being the long-range cannon, trying to annoy these guys as much as he can. Throw out the cards, do whatever. You've got a Kaisa that's 5.5 items. Baron can be duoed by Kaisa plus anybody else not named Kaisa to tank the debuff. This is so easy for them to pick up. No Org grabbing their second Baron of the game. And what is that, 9,000 gold up now? I don't know what the plan is for Zoos, but it has to be extreme.
Yeah, it has to be super, super impactful. Take a look at the Baron buff versus the Ocean Soul Timer. They're almost in sync. So what that's going to mean is Baron's minions are going to be pushed up in mid and bot wave. All of the vision should likely be denied in anticipation for that team fight. And then Zoos are going to have to march through darkness into the Ocean Soul point, where they should, in theory, be met by No Org having the low ground. And this isn't Star Wars. This is definitely much better to have here this time around. As Zoos are going to need a miracle Zoe bubble in order to save them here. And that's honestly their one out. It's why Zoe can still be such a nuisance for enemy teams in the later stages, much akin to Blitzcrank, where if you just hit a random bubble at this stage of the game, suddenly it's a 5v4 and you're back in the game. And it's one of the really cool things of Zoe as a champion.
All right, top lane tier 2 is gone. We have such a massive discrepancy between the turret count in this game. It's brought them up to a 10,000 gold lead. Everybody except for Alorum is here trying to defend this tier 3 turret in the top lane. Alorum is down there in bottom dealing with Viper in the 1v1. Both top laners have the teleport ready to go here to join the fight. 5Fire also with his own TP ready to go. 5Fire is using the ulti into the bottom side. They're going for the pick onto Alorum while the rest of the squad backs away. Well done from No Org, now putting their opponents again in a 4v5 state.
And things are looking really, really rough for Zeus, as now the Twisted Fate and the Renekton obviously just barreling up bot lane with one another. top lane underneath siege, and you have Anda escorting in the super minions in mid lane, and you just have to ask yourself, what is Alorum actually doing here? Because he's just not respecting the fact that Destiny Gate is there. No one's able to lock up Twisted Fate. Maybe the comms, where that Udyr was saying that he could lock up TF and that he would be in an isolated 1v1, but still really confusing overall, as now Noorg are looking to end the game, maybe.
You've got, 10 seconds left on Alorum before he's ready to go again, before they can get an honest 5v5. You know they want to be waiting on that one. Raheen only at 40% HP as well, going to be even lower now with the Lilia CC finding the mark. Rhino has to try to disengage down below half on his own health bar. Five Fire stepping forward, but not so far forward. They're able to get any sort of a punish. Red card takes down Nexus turret number 1. Really big meme trying to find the opportunity to go in. He goes for the flash. He goes for the slap. Five Fire getting himself away, but really big meme is already down. Value's into the back line, playing the Kaisa, the Chad, is the baddest, the raddest, the boy is going in, but now he's shut down. Overextension coming out from Value as Zoos Gaming gets a very important stop on him that might be able to hold them out here in this game even further. Rhino wants to go right back in. Rhino's going right back out in the body bag. Viper's got the damage on that one with Raheen getting stunned up here yet again. Raheen's out of the picture. Onda's on a rampage. Alorum's taking a nap. But it does not matter, my friends. No org. 36 minutes into the game will take us to a 2-0 lead here in this series.
And Noorg are just looking like their ability to orchestrate the mid and late game is at a much cleaner level than their counterparts here in this game. Zeus, they had everything that they could possibly want going for them. 2 best early dragons to start with, 3rd best to convert into for a meaningful win, and a team composition that was really well catered to handling a mid-game team fight or some sort of brawls, and they couldn't actually convert it into something meaningful. They kept getting over antsy, kept going for needlessly aggressive picks or needlessly aggressive plays, and Noorg was just outplaying them on the mechanical front time and time again to inch their way back in and then capitalize on it. And this is really bad news bears, because for all of the newcomers, they must be feeling really nervous right now, down 0-2, having a reverse sweep.
The thing that I was looking at the most, my biggest criticism for Zoos throughout that game, was just that specific lack of use of the Zoe. You gotta have patience if you draft Zoe, right? That's the whole point of the bubbles. That's the whole point in fishing for the Qs. In a direct, straight up 5v5 dogpile fiesta team fight, Zoe will struggle to shine the most. And Rhino was the one who felt, to me, the most desynced in those situations. He was trying to always be the initiator on the rel. Obviously, it's what the champion is great at, but it's not what the comp needed in the moment. So particularly between initiators and firepower, I want to see more cohesion in terms of what's going on from Zoos Gaming as we move forward, because there's no more opportunity for mistakes, man. That's been taken care of. That's what being 0-2 means. It's reverse sweep or go home.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what sort of a draft approach that they should actually try taking in game number 3, because this one was really well equipped to handle everything that they should have possibly wanted. But if their mid and late game is this weak, I'm not sure what they can really do in the draft. Maybe they just have to go all in with an early and mid game comp, hope to smack them with their wallets, and just have a team composition that really can't lose just bulldozing into the opponent.
Well, that's our opinions on this game and where to go from here. But for now, we're going to toss things back to the desk and hear what they have to say.
All right. I mean, so Viper's already instantly correct on the 2-0. So like that aspect of it is already a dub. Now you just need that one game to wrap it all up. What an absurd beginning. And I think we kind of already wanted to talk about the draft, right? Zyrene, you were interested in how the draft was going?
Yeah, because it was pretty much a salty run back up until the Udyr was picked, and then from there it just changed slowly but surely. Because previously they had picked their mid laner, they had picked Silas there, right? And the Twisted Fate had been picked a little bit earlier the very first time. So I think that they were like a little bit afraid of maybe something's going to happen in terms of this mid lane. And when they picked Zoe, like Captain Flowers was saying, I wasn't like too convinced that this is what this composition wanted to do. Because Rel is, like he was saying, like a champion that wants to go in. And Kalista, sure, can get his support out, but that's when you're playing something like a Tahm Kench Kalista, like back in the day. But now it's like Rel goes in, and then you try to save her. That's about it. The rest of the composition is going to be trying to run away or peel back. And Rel was really the person just going in and kind of messing with all that, because he doesn't really have a dive buddy. I like to have compositions have two people who really want to go in, kind of like you see on the other side, Viper on the Renekton as well as Big on the Alistar. Big can go in, but he's going to have somebody to help him out once he's in. And you saw Big was a big target for the enemy team, that Zeus was all over him multiple times, but they just didn't have the setup, they didn't have the patience, they didn't have the poke, and it baited Rhino in many times where everybody can just put all their damage just into that rel that's in the front line.
Sorry about that. Here I am.
All right.
So it was interesting to see them talking about the Zoe and seeing the idea that you have to play with patience, right? And that is a difficult mindset, I think, to grow into, and it's something that more experienced players tend to have an easier time with. That we have a comp that wants them to come into us, and we're going to punish them when they do it. And there were times that they did this, especially at the start of the game. And I think if we look at that first Rift Herald fight, which I believe we have a replay of, this was, I don't know if it was the only time in the game, but it was the most obvious time in the game where they actually made this work. So if we look at this, it started off with Darkwings landing a bubble and some poke onto Big. And you mentioned that they liked to attack and go after Big a lot. And this was good because now they're like, okay, we got this set up. Now they're going to have to face check into us or just give this objective up. And then when they do face check into us, not literally into a brush, but we engage on them and punish because of the poke and the CC we had landed before. And so this was, they actually did have some setups in this, but they lost that, I think, as the rest of the game played out.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think it's going to be very good in this series to play poke champions, because we saw it the last time they played each other. We saw it literally in the previous game before this one. This is not a patient team, and they're not against a team that has any patience themselves. So they're just going to constantly fight each other. It gets really down dirty. People are like, welcome back to casting Amateur League of Legends for me. And I'm like, oh, it hasn't changed at all. Everybody is just going all in. People are constantly trying and wanting to fight each other. And poke champions and split push get better the more you have a synergistic team around you that all understand what you want to do at what times. And it takes a lot of time with your teammates to really pull those strategies off. Whereas here, it seems like things like Orianna, Azir, they're being banned out, right? Those are going to be the things that win you the game, is having something that clears mid very easily or something that can team fight. And that's what they were missing here, is they didn't really have a good team fight on the side of Zoos Gaming, and that's why I kept getting away from them.
So just more direct team fight options is what you want from this team.
That's absolutely what I want.
Is this something that, because we saw they were able to succeed throughout the tournament based off of that, more or less a stable front to back team fights. I understand that there are pocket picks that Alarum would have, but you'd want them to have something that is very easy to execute. I can understand. Is this something that you'd agree with, Tim?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think when you look at, especially Darkwings in the game had a little bit of trouble kind of making his presence felt the way he wanted to. And he was, I think his Zoe play was something that needed to be really important in the way they handled this.
Yeah.
But we've seen him have a pretty good Azir in the past. And I think maybe his best game of the tournament was on Azir. And putting him into a position like that, I think would be much more beneficial for them.
So let's run the replay, because we already showed the one example in which they had the good setup. They had allowed Zoe to get the poke initially, and then they can engage front to back on towards Alistar once all the setup is there. Now, there are two instances. This was afterwards, when Alistar is the one engaging in, but then Rhino is the one who picks up. He's far more squishier, obviously, than Alistar with ultimate. But this is something that we saw throughout the entire game. In fact, 2 minutes prior, Zyrene. So this is obviously an issue of setup. Is it something that they can fix throughout this series?
I think they could fix this throughout the series, right? I think they just need to have more champions that all kind of do the same thing. Instead of, like, right there, you saw Zoe's in a side lane, trying to match a Renekton that's not even there and push that wave back out. So I think they just kind of need to get on the same page composition-wise. I think this was not a little desperate, but it seemed like they wanted to try something a little cheeky, and it didn't quite seem their style, because they're a team that, they make it to the Dragons first. They get there first. Sure, you can poke somebody when you are there and you have the kind of the area, but I actually like poke teams more when you're the ones that are later to the objectives, right? When you're still even, but the other team is getting there first, you can poke them while they're dealing with the dragon. They have to stay in very specific areas to control it, and it's much easier to poke when you're incoming and you've already established vision ahead of time. So I think this team is just going to be better at getting team fights around those objectives. It's been their style, so I think they should just go back to that.
All right. And I want to redirect, because we have been talking about Zeus very naturally because they're in a position where they can get knocked out of their tournament. But it's now about Noorg. Noorg has been the team that's been really dominating so far. And the replay that I want to show is just literally that. Anda has been, honestly, a star this series. He's been a star this tournament. What have you been liking so far, Tim, from Anda's Lilia in this game and just honestly throughout the tournament itself?
He's just getting in the right positions at the right times, right? Like being able to flash in and start a fight at the right time. We saw in game one, he had been playing so well and so cleanly. Everybody had been dying and he had 0 deaths for the longest time. And he was able to get into that position with the stopwatch and the Zonias and, use them both to win that team fight. Here, he was the one going in and starting it. He's been probably the MVP of the tournament so far in my books. You could maybe look at one of his teammates on that, and Solifita has some good players, but he's been just such a standout, and in every different phase of the game, even in a game like this where he didn't get off on a great foot at level 1, but he managed to bring it back, right, and still have a huge influence on the game.
Talk about that level 1. Go on, Zarin.
Hold on. I was just looking at his stats. I'm like, average goal distance at 15, up 735. That's like getting two and a third kill really early on into the game. And then his CS per minute is like just overall really nice. So this guy, he's picking up all the camps. He's ganking. He's not losing any time. He's very efficient. When I watch his pathing, it is that Anda Canyon that people are talking about, right? He does have a big gap between him and the skill level of other junglers that we're seeing.
The Anda Canyon. I swear I've never heard that before, but we need to keep saying that.
Let's do it.
But yeah, like this was a different game for him because oftentimes he comes out with a large early game advantage, right, Tim? But this game he came out with a deficit, like he had lost his blue buff. And I know that talking about level 1s is something that, especially this series, seems to be the theme. But what did you see in his pathing that really put him behind? And like obviously, like you already talked about the discipline to come back into the game, but what was the early game looking like for him?
Well, I think it's just being predictable, right? Like we talked about this coming into the series. Noorg have been doing a lot of that level 1 invade top side with 2 or 3 people and forcing vertical jungling. And Zeus knew it. They read it. They defended it pretty easily with just people in the right spots. And Anda had to run all the way out and run to his bot side and try to recover from that. It was just being predictable. And Zeus are going to know better than any other team what Noorg like to do. They're going to know their tendencies, and they just went after him that time and set them behind. And I think that kind of preparation and knowing, like, we have certain advantages over Noorg in our prep. We know things about them that we can use. I'm hoping that Zeus can hold on to that and stay mentally strong, because now they've lost a game to Noorg, in a game that Noorg snowballed on them, and they couldn't quite make a comeback. They've lost a game where they got a lead and Noorg made a comeback. They're going to maybe be pulling their hair out and thinking, what can we change? What can we do differently?
I'm going to ask you... Oh, go for it, Zarin.
Maybe sides? You were talking about this before, Tim, where Zeus has played... What is it? I'll let you take it.
They have played red side every single game this tournament up till now, which is, I believe, 12 games in a row.
Take it away from them! Like, red side, they maybe want to change that up. It's... Especially if you're getting into... your potentially final game of the tournament, you can't just be dying on that hill. You have to change it up. That being said, I want to hear, I know we've talked around the mid lane, we've talked about the top lane, we talked about the bottom lane. Dark Wings and Five Fire, that's something that I want to hear more about. So I want to throw it to the interview from Dark Wings talking about that mid lane matchup versus Five Fire.
Against Five Fire, usually I'm playing like a scaling control mage. I tend to just wait out the lane phase and then be stronger later on than him. Five Fire is different from the other mids just because of like his weird pocket picks. Like I guess Set is like the big one. It's not really weird, but it's pretty strong. And like other stuff like Zoe, Vigar that I'm like interested in playing against.
All right. I mean, that pretty much covers it. Hearing from Dark Wings, and hopefully we can get an interesting series. That being said, we will be going directly into a break. We'll see you on the other side.